welcome to the virtual public hearing of the Commission on Judicial Appointments. As Chief Justice of California, I serve as chair of the commission, and our members are Attorney General Rob Bontemps and Presiding Justice J. Anthony Klein. Janelle Baker serves as secretary to the commission. This hearing is to consider Governor Gavin Newsom's appointment of Judge Victor A. Rodriguez to the office of Associate Justice, Court of Appeal, 1st Appellate District, Division 3. We are in receipt of a letter from Governor Newsom appointing Judge Rodriguez to fill a vacancy created by the elevation of Justice Terry L. Jackson. The state constitution specifies that an appointment by the governor to the Court of Appeal is effective when confirmed by the Commission on Judicial Appointments. We received correspondence pertaining to this appointment, and we made these letters available to the press and public a few days ago. Pursuant to a request by Governor Newsom, the State Bar's Commission on Judicial Nominees Evaluation, Jenny, has undertaken an evaluation of the qualifications of Judge Rodriguez. Ms. Stella Ngai, chair of the Jenny Commission, is present today to publicly announce the results of that evaluation and will do so later in these proceedings. Judge Rodriguez has asked that the following persons be called to testify on his behalf. I'll list them now and then invite them separately up to the podium. We have the Honorable Carol A. Corrigan, Associate Justice of the California Supreme Court, the Honorable Mariano-Florentino Cuéllar, Associate Justice of the California Supreme Court, and the Honorable Thomas J. Nixon, Judge of the Superior Court of Alameda County. We invite Justice Corrigan to the podium.
Right, I can see myself, Madam Chief Justice, Mr. Attorney General, Mr. Presiding Justice. It is a great pleasure to be with you this afternoon to speak in support of the nomination of Judge Victor Rodriguez for a position on the 1st District Court of Appeal. I have known Judge Rodriguez for a number of years, and I was most fortunate to have him serve as a research attorney on my staff here at the Supreme Court. As a result, we've worked very closely together on a number of very complicated cases, and I can say wholeheartedly that he will be a superb addition to the Court of Appeal. He will bring a broad background to that position. He's served as a lawyer, served in the chambers of several Supreme Court justices, which gives him a very broad feel for how different jurists approach the task of sitting on a court of review. His service on the trial court means he understands the rigors and demands placed on a judge who's on the firing line. He knows the dynamic, challenging, and fast-paced world of the trial court. And as a result, he will be able to review assertions of error with that insight and to fashion rules that are both practical and fair. And he's a known quantity. Unlike many candidates, because he has served on the Court of Appeal, we all kind of know what we're getting. Not only has he sat on the Court of Appeal on assignment, he was asked back to do so. And you know that that second invitation is not often extended, and it reflects the high opinion of the very experienced and highly regarded justices with whom he has served. Now, you know that service on the Court of Review demands a particular set of skills that are both difficult to come by and hard to perfect. Victor has them all in abundance. He is an insightful and thoughtful and careful legal analyst. He writes with clarity and grace, which means that he will be able to explain the nuances of every case so that practitioners and judges can apply the rules he writes in order to apply the law with care. And of course, sitting on a court of review is something of a team sport. Sitting on the trial court is often a one-person affair, but an appellate court justice is called upon to be open to the opinions of fellow panel members, to listen to differing points of view or approaches to a question with an open mind, to accommodate those views when possible, and to be collegial even in disagreement. Victor is unfailingly collegial. He is genuinely a pleasure to work with. He is open to the views of others and adept at finding middle ground whenever that's possible. When you work alongside someone to try to resolve and then to explain a complicated case, you get to know how that person approaches the law and how they understand their role in shaping it. Victor is first and foremost committed to getting it right. He is balanced in his approach, and he never loses sight of the human aspect of every case. He is careful to honor both the demands of justice and the rigors of precedent. In short, Victor Rodriguez is a judge who is as wise as he is smart. By confirming his nomination, you and the governor will place a dedicated, practical, and insightful scholar on the Court of Appeal. And I will be happy, Chief, to answer any questions the panel might pose.
Thank you, Justice Corrigan. Next, we'll invite to the podium the Honorable Mariano-Florentino Cuéllar. I think you're on mute, Tino.
Sorry about that. I was saying such eloquent things, but nobody could hear me. Mr. Attorney General, congratulations on your appointment. Justice Klein, thank you for your remarkable service to and continuing service to our branch. And Chief, thank you for being the most remarkable and best chief in the entire country, bar none. It's been really a delight to be your colleague and to be your friend. And I'm just so fortunate that I have learned from you and I still get to work with you. I'm going to do what I always do when I'm in my right mind, which is to concur entirely with my esteemed colleague, Justice Corrigan. I think Justice Corrigan nicely summed up in her very eloquent way why Judge Rodriguez is so special to those of us who have been able to work with him over the years. I want to just add a few insights, very much consistent with what my colleague has shared. And I'll begin by just noting the remarkable experience of watching the Olympic Games. I've never watched them in person, but I have seen them on a screen, as many of you have. And just in reflecting on the extraordinary acumen of the gymnasts in the last Olympics, I was struck by how their greatest gift sometimes is to make what they do seem effortless, almost as if we would start on those uneven bars or on the balance beam. We could imagine ourselves doing almost what they do. We can't. And of course, what most of us realize when we start to reflect for just a moment is that the beauty of their performance, the extraordinary achievement that they represent, the pride we feel when they represent our country, for example, is the tip of a very, very big iceberg. Beneath the iceberg is practice, is determination, is learning from your mistakes, is patience, is knowing when to find your mentors, knowing when to make your own judgment. And as I think about those gymnasts and what they pull off, I cannot help but thinking of someone equally remarkable, who's Judge Rodriguez. The gymnasts have almost all, to a last one, a remarkable personal story. How do they get interested in gymnastics? How do they find the right coach? And so it is with Judge Rodriguez. You know, his personal story by now is probably well known to most of you. His parents even had a connection to our legal system, helping to maintain our courthouses in Alameda County. His own passion for debate, for law, took him to USC, to Cal State, to coaching debate, to Berkeley Law School, to being a civil rights lawyer at the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, to clerkships with superb judges under the Supreme Court of California. I could spend an hour on that personal story. I've been inspired by it myself many times. But I want to highlight some of soon to be Justice, hopefully, if confirmed, Rodriguez's personal qualities, to just pick up where Justice Corrigan was going. I find that in my experience working with Judge Rodriguez when he was my chief of staff, he was remarkable at reading the room. He had a good sense of when somebody had something to say that had not quite been said yet, some hesitation about an outcome that people were circling in on. And I always admired and think it will serve him well that in an appellate context, he's going to draw people out. He's going to make sure that what needs to be said gets said. He had, in addition, an ability to project a warmth, caring for the people he worked with, a sense that if they needed something, if there was some concern that they had, he was going to be there for them. And he could always do that, inhabiting his role fully, staying within that role. But I also found that apropos of the role he played as a manager in my chambers, and I will, by the way, forever be grateful to Justice Corrigan for many things, but one of the things I most appreciate is that she still talked to me after I persuaded Victor to come work for me as chief of staff, after he served in her chambers as a chambers attorney. And so Victor, in what I saw in him, and I think Justice Corrigan did too, and blessing that merger, as it were, is managerial qualities, the ability to understand how to train people, how to supervise them, how to make sure they were doing what they were doing, how to make sure they learn from their mistakes. I then note that Judge Rodriguez has a remarkable intellect, great lawyerly qualities. He's unusually thoughtful about the law, turns over different arguments, makes sure we consider the opposing view, thinks about different philosophies, different ways that different judges, maybe trained in different ways with different life experiences, might think about issues, which made him a very effective ambassador to other chambers. There are at least two opinions I can think of, and probably more than two, where his deft thinking about how maybe to shape an argument, to explain it to colleagues, made the difference in whether an opinion could come together. I note that intelligence was very much on display in one of the most remarkable things I saw him do, which was to be my right-hand person as the leader of our language access reform efforts, which he has continued now thoroughly in the capacity of the chair of the Judicial Council subcommittee working on this issue. Language access, as most of you know, is a huge undertaking for us. We have more languages spoken in California by more people than any other state in the country. I like to tell people, if you add up all the limited English speakers in New York, Texas, and Florida together, that's about as many limited English speakers as we have in California. The trick there was not just to set up a vision. That had been done very nicely by a previous committee that the Chief Justice worked very closely with. It was to figure out how to implement it, to figure out the right budgets, the right coalition of presiding judges, the right outreach to court CEOs in our trial courts, the right way of pulling in stakeholders, the right way of setting up a process to learn from what was not going well at certain trial courts. And what Victor was able to pull off was not only good enough for the U.S. Department of Justice, it was certainly something that I learned from watching him build those alliances and links, and I've been so pleased to see him continue that work as a trial court judge. I'll close by just noting that the theme that runs through everything Victor has done, to my mind, is a devotion to public service. You could see that in how he talks about what he was studying at USC. You could see that in the debate training he was doing for those kids at Cal State. You can see that in the way his colleagues thought of him on the California Supreme Court, how he talked me out from various ledges when that was the right thing to do. And as he transitioned to all those different roles in the Supreme Court, I must say, he left each place he worked better than it was before. I think I can say that with confidence. That dedication is something I admire. I think it's something our state needs. So for the judicial equivalent of an Olympic athlete, cross-trained in civil, in criminal, in appellate and trial, jurisprudence and administrative, respect for tradition as well as change, I just have to say, I can't give him a medal, but I can tell you he has the medal to be a superb appellate judge. And I hope you confirm it.
Thank you, Justice Cuéllar. And just as an aside, because it's for historical purposes, I know that Judge Rodriguez would always want to have this part in his COJA hearing. We will miss you terribly at the Supreme Court as you go on to become the president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. I know all of us believe if anyone can achieve that, it will be Tino Cuéllar.
Thank you, Chief.
Next, we invite to the podium Judge Nixon. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, unless it's just me.
No, I think it was me.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Chief Justice, Attorney General Bonta, and Justice Klein. Following Justice Corrigan and Justice Cuéllar has been just a lifelong dream of mine, so it's nice that I was able to get that done. It's a great pleasure to speak with you today in support of Judge Victor Rodriguez's nomination as an Associate Justice for the First District Court of Appeals. I first met Victor in January of 2018. I was the supervising judge of family law, and he had just been sworn in as a judge and was assigned to my department. He's excellent, extremely intelligent, very humble, eager to take on any assignment, exactly the type of judge that a supervising judge would want to have an opportunity to supervise. At that same time, our court had begun to work on a new project, one that would come to define Judge Rodriguez's time on our bench. We were working on creating a dedicated domestic violence department, a department that was designed to address the unique challenges and to unique special needs present in domestic violence matters. As you know, every hurdle a party had to face is a reason not to go through with the process. We wanted a department that would not only hear DV cases, but that would eliminate hurdles, and one that would marshal services of every community service that we could all in one department, so those services could be brought to bear immediately. We knew that wasn't going to be easy, and the service providers were asking us questions. Would we be dedicated to the department? Who was going to preside in the department? And would we be willing to listen to those service providers and their comments? I had answers for everything except who was going to preside in the department. As it turned out, it was going to be our newest judge, Victor Rodriguez. In March, Judge Rodriguez came to me after a family bench officers meeting, and he asked me if I would consider assigning him to that position. Now, he had taken to family much better than I thought he was going to take to it, but he was brand new. I mean, he hadn't even gone to new judges orientation yet. And he was asking to be assigned to a department that everything was invested in, that we felt absolutely had to succeed. We were hesitant, to say the least, but Victor is nothing if not persistent. He would be constantly contacting me, asking me questions about the department, giving me suggestions for how we should be dealing with it. He was on vacation in Hawaii, and he was sending me emails saying, I know you're going to be assigning someone to this very soon. Please don't forget about me. I really want to be part of this project. In the end, we decided that it was probably better to put someone that committed and that passionate to the project than someone that may have had more experience, but was less of a desirable choice. The department started its life on June 4th of 2018. Victor immediately began receiving rave reviews from everyone. We began fielding calls from up and down the state. What were you doing? What services did you provide? How did you do that? Victor fielded all of those calls. In 3 months, we were asked to do a report to the entire bench. I won't go over all of it with you. We haven't got that kind of time, but I will give you just a few bullet points. We then had, after 3 months, on a daily basis, 2 Spanish interpreters, 2 recommending counselors, representatives from Shelter Against Violent Environments and A Safe Place, service providers such as Terra Firma, a dedicated DV specialist, an LPA every morning to assure that every litigant left with the restraining order in their hands. Available on a daily basis, gun compliance calendars, community resources to counsel people inclined to terminate their restraining orders early, in-courtroom ability to register for parenting classes, DV classes, anger management classes, supervised visitation, DNA testing, and drug testing. Now, all of that was from a judge that had been on the bench for 8 months, and the department had been in existence for 3. And it wasn't just that. He also worked with the sheriff's department so that the documents could be sent electronically to the sheriff's department for proof of service. That was a game changer. Most people couldn't make it to Oakland to do that. He also asked for and folded in elder abuse so that all of these resources could be brought to bear for that vulnerable group as well. Just days after the start of the pandemic, working with our Judge Tara DeSatels and his new SJ, Greg Sorin, he helped put together a series of Blue Jean simulated dry runs to make certain that they would be able to do the hearings. He also worked specifically with self-represented litigants with language access issues. He worked with all of the service providers to make certain that the services could still be provided, even though the departments were closed, by using the chat function and breakaway sessions. He worked tirelessly to keep the promise of that department alive. Now, all of that is fascinating. All of that is amazing. But, in the end, we didn't create this department to garner accolades. We created this department to help people. As his supervising judge, it was my job to make certain that his performance on the bench matched his performance off. When I was younger, I'd look out and there'd be my SJ or there'd be my PJ sitting in the audience looking at me. And I would think to myself, oh, I need this like a hole in the head. So I decided not to do that with Victor. Instead, I would go around back and I would stand by the door leading into his courtroom, and I would listen. What tone was he setting? Was he asking questions of both parties? Was he making considered decisions and explaining those decisions to the litigants so that they understood? And did they understand what was expected of them as they moved on? When things would get heated, as they do in domestic violence cases, did he de-escalate calmly? And I would check on this constantly. I was his SJ for 2 years. I needed to make certain he wasn't burning out. After all, this was a 5-day-a-week, 52-week-a-year domestic violence calendar. He never did. He was always calm. He was always considerate. And he was always making considered decisions. You know, it never ceases to amaze me, the incredible trust that the public puts in us. Those of us fortunate to wear a robe. They come into us and they put their matters before us. People they don't even know. And they ask us, will I be protected? Will I be able to see my children? Will there be money to put food on the table? They have a right to know that their judge understands the importance of those decisions. Most especially, they have a right to know that that person looking down on them from the bench recognizes them for what they are, human beings, and not just another case to move off the calendar. Judge Rodriguez understands this. He demonstrates that understanding every time he's on the bench. I know, I can tell you that. I've watched it. And it's for that reason, really, that I'm here today talking on his behalf and supporting his nomination as strongly as I am. Thank you so much, very much, for the honor of your attention.
Thank you, Judge Nixon. Thank you very much. Next, we invite the Jenny Chair, Ms. Stella Ngai, to the podium.
Good afternoon. Madam Chief Justice, Attorney General Bonta, Presiding Justice Klein, I am honored to present this report on behalf of the Commission on Judicial Nominees Evaluation, Jenny, to summarize the basis of the Jenny Commission's rating of Judge Victor A. Rodriguez, who has been nominated for the office of Associate Justice of the Court of Appeal, 1st Appellate District, Division 3. The Jenny Commission conducted its evaluation of Judge Rodriguez on February 20th, 2021, finding him to be qualified for service on the Court of Appeal, 1st Appellate District. According to Jenny Commission rules, the rating reflects the Commission's determination that Judge Rodriguez possesses qualities and attributes sufficient to perform the appellate judicial function with a high degree of skill and effectiveness. Judge Rodriguez was born in the farming community of Livermore, California, the son of immigrants from Mexico. His parents picked fruit during the day and worked as custodians at night. While he was in grade school, Judge Rodriguez's family moved to Oceanside, California, where he graduated from high school. In 1997, Judge Rodriguez received a BA degree, majoring in international relations from the University of Southern California. He then attended California State University, Long Beach, where he received an MA degree in communications in 1999. A year later, he enrolled at the University of California, Berkeley School of Law, where he received his JD degree in 2003. While in law school, Judge Rodriguez was a member of the California Law Review and the Berkeley Raza Law Journal. He was admitted to the California Bar in December 2003. Following law school, Judge Rodriguez received a Skadden Fellowship to work as a staff attorney for the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, where he litigated a variety of immigration, wage and hour, and civil rights matters from 2003 to 2005. From 2005 to 2006, Judge Rodriguez worked as a law clerk for the Honorable Consuelo B. Marshall of the United States District Court for the Central District of California. Upon completion of his federal clerkship, he accepted a 2-year clerkship with the California Supreme Court, working for the Honorable Carlos R. Moreno. After the first year of his clerkship, Judge Rodriguez accepted Justice Moreno's offer to become a career chambers attorney. Following Justice Moreno's retirement in 2011, Judge Rodriguez worked as a chambers attorney for the Honorable Goodwin Liu from 2011 to 2012, and later for the Honorable Carol Corrigan from 2013 to 2015. He also served in the Supreme Court's Criminal Central staff from 2012 to 2013. From 2015 to 2018, Judge Rodriguez served as the supervising staff attorney for the Honorable Mariano-Florentino Cuéllar. In January 2018, Judge Rodriguez was appointed by Governor Brown to the Alameda County Superior Court. He presides over the court's newly dedicated Domestic Violence Department, which handles daily domestic violence hearings in addition to specialized calendars for monitoring gun collection matters and litigants' progress with civilly ordered domestic violence and anger management classes. Judge Rodriguez also serves on several committees of the Alameda County Superior Court. He is the chair of the Family Violence Council and co-chair of the Access Committee. Judge Rodriguez is also a member of the Family Law, Access and Self-Represented Litigants, and Court Security Committees. He serves as the chair of the Language Access Subcommittee of the Judicial Council's Advisory Committee on Providing Access and Fairness, and previously served on the Council's Language Access Plan Implementation Task Force. In his 2 years on the Alameda County Superior Court, Judge Rodriguez has distinguished himself as a leader on access to justice and family violence issues. His leadership in presiding over the Domestic Violence Department has earned him praise from the bar, bench, and community leaders. Judge Rodriguez is lauded for his intelligence, professionalism, and even-keeled temperament. Judge Rodriguez's 12 years of service on the state's highest court gives him a breadth and depth of research experience in all substantive aspects of California law and appellate procedure. He has drafted opinions on subjects ranging from wage and hour class actions to capital murder cases. In addition, his 2 years of service on the Alameda County Superior Court, dealing with pro per litigants and family law cases, gives him firsthand practical insight on how the law affects the lives of everyday citizens. Judge Rodriguez's work with the Domestic Violence Department and his ongoing commitment to language access demonstrate his dedication to an effective, transparent, and inclusive judicial branch for all Californians. Judge Rodriguez is distinguished by his intellect, comprehensive legal and judicial experience, strong oral and written communication skills, and exemplary professional reputation. Acknowledging his many extraordinary strengths, the Commission also found that he would benefit from more practical experience in the trial court. For this reason, the Commission concluded that Judge Rodriguez possesses qualities and attributes sufficient to perform the appellate judicial function with a high degree of skill and effectiveness. With time, the Commission believes that Judge Rodriguez will serve the First Appellate District with great distinction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ngai. I now invite Judge Rodriguez to present a statement, if you wish, to the Commission and to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Good to see you, Chief. Good afternoon, Chief Justice, Attorney General Bonta, and Presiding Justice Klein. I'm deeply humbled and honored to be with you this afternoon, and I thank you for this Commission's consideration of my nomination to Division 3 of the First District Court of Appeal. If confirmed, I'll tirelessly work to serve the public to the best of my abilities. And to steal a lovely turn of phrase from Justice Corrigan, I'll work to honor both the demands of justice and rigors of precedent. And if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions, Justice Klein or Attorney General Bonta?
I do have some points I'd like to make. I don't think, Judge Rodriguez, that you are Jewish, but this reminds me of a bar mitzvah. This is what happens after the bar mitzvah boy has performed his function. And I think you deserve it. I had a conversation today with Justice Moreno, and one of the questions I asked him was whether you had any interests beyond the law. You seem consumed by the law. You seem to have had an extraordinary diversity of experiences in the law. And I wondered if you had time for anything else. And Carlos answered me, I think I couldn't stop him after he got started, about the widespread, the swath of interests that you have. And he described you as a polymath, which I find a very commendable thing to say about anybody. Um, I also want to comment on something that Judge Nixon said, because I think it's very important. For one thing, I doubt if my experience on the Superior Court, and that was 40 years ago, was any indication, if you wanted to go on the family law court, you were never turned down because nobody else wanted it. But I think it's enormously valuable on an appellate court, particularly an intermediate appellate court, which deals a lot with domestic violence and with family law matters generally, far more than the Supreme Court. But there are remarkably few judges. I can think of only one, Allison Tucker, who served also in Alameda County on the family law department. And that experience brings something to our court that I think we need. I've always thought that governors should consider the need of various courts for forms of expertise, which is a factor that is not usually given great weight. And so I'm going to vote for you among other reasons for that. But my last comment really is about something about you that everybody has said, and that is your collegiality. But the people who have said that are, by and large, Supreme Court judges or people who argued before you. We didn't hear from anybody, I thought. I didn't expect to hear from anybody who had dealt with you not as a superior, but as an equal constitutional officer. And so I called my closest friend on the division to which you've been appointed, Mark Simons. And I said, well, tell me about this. I mean, bring it down to a lower level of abstraction. And this is the story he told me, which has had an enormous impact on me, frankly. I believe you were there for 4 or 5 months, and you received an opinion by another member of the panel, and with which you disagreed. And the third judge on the panel, which was Mark Simons, agreed with the judge who had been assigned the opinion. You disagreed, but it ended up, due to the strength of your argument and the manner in which you advanced it, that the author of the opinion with which you disagreed ended up agreeing with you, as did Justice Simons. Now, I will tell you, that is not a common occurrence that you will, that one on our court will experience, but it speaks volumes about your character, about your temperament, about the strength of your mind, that I think is going to serve not just you, but our court very well. None of those things are questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Presiding Justice Klein. Attorney General?
Thank you for the opportunity to be with all of you. Good to see you, Judge Rodriguez and Justice Klein, Chief Justice Kanchiosaka Uye. Thankful for this opportunity. And just 2 quick questions. The first one I wanted to ask is about what I see as a very unique professional experience that you have, Judge Rodriguez. And a lot of your professional experience has not been as an attorney practicing before the courts, and much of it has been working with some of the most brilliant minds in our legal system, specifically our justices on the California Supreme Court. So how has that unique experience, do you think, how will that affect your service as an associate justice, and how has it prepared you to become an associate justice?
Thank you, Attorney General. It's a great question, and obviously a question I've gotten before, because I think it's a somewhat unique background that I bring as an applicant to the Court of Appeal. I think it helps me in 2 particular ways. One is having worked for 4 justices, as Justice Corrigan mentioned, really brings a wealth of experience in terms of different ways to approach resolving legal matters, understanding that much of resolving appellate matters is about the conversation and the persuasion as much as it is about research and substantive analysis. And so looking at the range from Justice Moreno and Justice Corrigan and Justice Cuéllar and Justice Liu on the other end, to be able to see what fits my personality, how you can kind of resolve these issues is very helpful. But I think the other thing that it helps is that part of that give and take between appellate justices is about bringing different professional backgrounds and experiences. And so I think that that enhances and enriches that conversation that appellate justices have. And I think that that's been validated by both what I watched on the Supreme Court, where you see 4 of the justices never having been trial judges, but being brilliant jurists and having a wealth of experience to bring to those conversations. And the same in Division 5, that it was both an honor and a pleasure to serve with Justice Simons and Needham and Burns. And I'd like to think that as much as I learned from them about their experience being trial lawyers and trial court judges and then sitting on the Court of Appeal and the government experience that Justice Burns brought to the table, that I'd like to think that my background also enriched those conversations and helped us to reach a better result.
Thank you for that response. I appreciate it very much. My second question is in regards to what many folks have highlighted with respect to your collegiality, your commitment to consensus building, working with those around you who share the same mission, and your ability to be persuasive, to earn support, to earn consensus. When do you stop trying to build consensus and depart from the majority and take a contrary position? How do you think about that question?
So I guess I'd answer that question in 2 ways. One is both as being a staff attorney for a Supreme Court justice who has to make the same decisions, has to make balance to institutional prerogatives. I think one of the things that a lot of commentators remark on about the California Supreme Court is the highest rate of collegiality and lots of unanimous opinions. So trying to strike the balance between that, but also understanding that there are times when you need to set out a marker for what you think is the right answer. And I think that how I would have answered that question is further informed by the 5 months that I spent as a pro tem justice in Division 5. And I think that the anecdote that Justice Klein shared really demonstrates that approach, is that relatively early on to that pro tem assignment, something circulated that I had some concerns about. And so being 3 weeks into a pro tem assignment, I'm also trying to strike the balance of this kid who has been on the Superior Court for 3 years, now 3 weeks into a pro tem assignment, with people who have a wealth of experience, both in the trial court and the Court of Appeal, but feeling like perhaps the answer in to this matter is not the one that initially circulated, and how to strike the balance of respect and collegiality and conversation, how to try to persuade and how to be open to persuasion, to understand, to not approach it to being that I'm the smartest person in the room, that perhaps I've missed something, perhaps in the give and take with my colleagues that I might be persuaded. And then if ultimately I'm not persuaded, to know that I also need to stick to my guns about what is the right answer here. But to do it in a respectful way that through openness ended up with the way that anecdote ended up, which is ultimately persuading the other 2 members of that panel.
Judge Rodriguez, welcome home, so to speak. You spent a number of years here at the Supreme Court in these halls. And while questions have been about your work at the Supreme Court and when you were on assignment at the Court of Appeal, my question is about your work at the trial court. My work is, as you know, all of our appellate work is informed by the book, and the book is written in the trial court. And you've had now the privilege and the luxury of being able to be immersed in the trial court after having come from a court of review and then coming back to a court of review. I tend to think, at least in my view, the first few years of trial work as a jurist or even as an attorney are some of the richest because of the new experiences you find yourself in. So my question is, having been the decision maker at the trial court level, the eyes at the trial court level, In what way, if at all, does that now inform your jurisprudence at the review level?
Thank you for that question. It's somewhat of a strange journey that I've had, because I started off with a clerkship for a judge marshal in the Central District, watching someone who had decades of experience on the Los Angeles Superior Court, Municipal Court, and the Central District, learning from Justice Corrigan and Justice Moreno, who also had so much experience on the Superior Court, reading all of the transcripts that we read at the Supreme Court, particularly in these capital cases that go from the beginning all the way through the end, to then be deposited in the middle of family law. And so I had already come in with the perspective of Justice Corrigan and Justice Moreno in particular, thinking through, giving me context for the difficulty and the pressure that one is under when you are making decisions on the fly, to then be doing it myself. And to be doing it myself in an area of law where approximately 70% of the matters have self-represented litigants. There aren't attorneys kind of answering the questions for you. You are making very quick decisions, and in the context of family violence, decisions that feel very life and death in the moment, because you have a very long calendar. And then on top of that, to go back to what Justice Klein said a second ago, what I think is somewhat unique about family law is I would often tell some of my colleagues, having a family law assignment is the closest thing to being at the California Supreme Court that you can get in the Superior Court. You deal with immigration issues and family issues. You deal with issues of bankruptcy and immigration. You deal with criminal issues, and you do it all under very tight pressure. So I think that having done that now for coming up on almost 4 years, you have a very real appreciation for what trial courts have to do in terms of balancing, managing their calendar, the high volume of those things, giving every person their due, and making sure that everyone feels like you are listening to them, you're very well prepared, you're making the best decisions that you can to move forward. I think all of that will significantly inform this new career, or this new path, this new chapter, if I'm fortunate enough to be confirmed.
Thank you. I appreciate your answer. This does complete the list of witnesses who are to testify here today, and I believe the members of the commission are ready to vote. All in favor of confirming Judge Victor Rodriguez for this position, please say aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, and on this record and the correspondence received, the commission finds the Honorable Victor A. Rodriguez qualified to be an Associate Justice of the Court of Appeal, First Appellate District, Division 3. We confirm your appointment. Congratulations, Justice Rodriguez. 2 more matters. First, before we enter into the oath of office, I do want to thank also Jorge Navarrete, the CEO of the California Supreme Court, for making our technology and this process available and open, and also to the Judicial Council staff, particularly Michael Durr, for all the assistance in technology in the past and today as well. Justice Rodriguez has given me the honor of administering the oath of office. So we are going to go off camera for about 10 seconds to put on robes to administer the oath of office. And then the floor will be Justice Rodriguez. Thank you. Justice Rodriguez, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Victor Rodriguez,
Do solemnly swear or affirm.
do solemnly swear
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
That I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California.
and the Constitution of the State of California.
That I take this obligation freely,
That I take this obligation freely,
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion.
or purpose of evasion.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
the duties upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, Your Honor.
Thank you very much.
The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'd like to thank Governor Newsom, Judicial Appointment Secretary Luis Cespedes, Deputy Judicial Appointment Secretary Gonzalo Martinez and Deputy Debbie Kuhn. In particular, I'd like to thank them for their commitment to a judiciary that at all levels better reflects the enriching diversity of the state we serve. That diversity in all meanings of the word increases public confidence, enhances judicial understanding, and invites others to see the possibility of their own future career paths. Success in that endeavor of inclusivity requires the hard work of everyone, from efforts like the Governor's Judicial Mentor Program to that of countless community organizations, including bench and bar affinity groups. And those efforts require a lasting commitment to the process. 20 years ago, when I was at Berkeley Law, my Latino and Latina classmates and I organized a symposium to discuss the dearth of Latinos and Latinas on the state and federal bench. The event happened to coincide with Justice Moreno's appointment to the California Supreme Court. We heard then Judge Sonia Sotomayor speak about the importance of a diverse bench, and we honored firsts like Justice Cruz Reynoso and Orange County Superior Court Judge Frances Munoz, the first Latina trial judge in the United States. It's humbling to stand now on the shoulders of these jurists. It's gratifying to see how much progress has been made in making our judiciary more inclusive, but sobering to acknowledge how much more remains to be done. I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and doing my part to advance that goal. I'd also like to thank my colleagues at the Alameda County Superior Court. They're hardworking, deeply committed to public service, and incredibly collegial and supportive of one another. In particular, I'd like to thank my colleagues on the family law bench. Like their counterparts throughout the state, the family law bench officers have worked tirelessly to ensure access to justice during the pandemic. Approximately 70% of the litigants we serve are self-represented. Many require the assistance of interpreters, and these matters are critical and fundamental to all we hold dear, involving child custody, protection from family violence, financial support, etc. I'd like to thank the staff at the Alameda County Superior Court, the clerks, reporters, interpreters, courtroom attendants, self-help staff, family court services. During a pandemic, when these individuals face the same challenges as the court users we serve, they nonetheless continue to answer the call of service. In particular, I'd like to thank Hedy Mitlow, Jennifer Madison, Anthony Jones, and Colleen Espinoza for their indispensable work and commitment to create a dedicated domestic violence courtroom that could better serve and protect the public. And I'd like to thank all of the community organizations, governmental agencies, attorneys, and law enforcement that also partnered in that effort to address the scourge of family violence. I'd like to thank the Judicial Council staff and fellow committee members with whom I've worked to expand and ensure language access to our courts. As Justice Cuéllar noted, there are more than 200 languages spoken in the state, and 20% of our residents are limited English proficient individuals. Working to ensure court users can meaningfully participate in the judicial process is critical, and I'm so grateful of the Chief's leadership and the branch's commitment on this issue. I'd like to thank my former colleagues, the attorneys at the California Supreme Court. The 12 years I spent there were amongst the most rewarding of my legal career. Their hard work and commitment to public service and to getting the right answer is astonishing. I learned much from them, and they contributed mightily to me being a better thinker and writer. And of course, I'd like to thank the witnesses for their support and kind words. I consider Justice Corrigan, Justice Cuéllar, and Justice Nixon friends and valuable mentors, and I've learned so much from all of them. One of the benefits of having this hearing via Blue Jeans is I felt like Justice Corrigan was literally in my office saying these words directly to my face. I'd be remiss in not acknowledging the same of Judge Marshall, Justice Moreno, Justice Liu, and Tom Sines, under whom I worked at MALDEF. I would have been exceedingly fortunate to have worked with and learned from just one of these individuals, and it's a bit of an embarrassment of riches to stand on the shoulders of all of them. I'd like to thank those individuals and organizations that submitted letters in support of my confirmation. I'd like to thank the Commission on Judicial Appointments for your consideration of my nomination and for all of your hard work in your day jobs in upholding and defending the rule of law. I'd like to thank Janelle Baker, Amoy Kim, and Jorge Navarrete for helping to set up this hearing. And now, most important of all, I'd like to thank my family, beginning with my sister and my parents. All of the positive qualities attributed to me so far in this hearing are more accurately laid at the feet of my parents. The importance of hard work, humility, of serving others, of empathy, of listening and kindness, all of these were inculcated and modeled by my parents. 40 years ago, when I was a child, they took a second job cleaning buildings in the city of Livermore, including what was then the Livermore Municipal Court. And I helped, sweeping, emptying wastebaskets, dusting. When I asked what went on in the building with what felt like grand courtrooms and gavels on the bench, I remember my parents speaking with some reverence about the public service of these attorneys, judges, and officers. And while I didn't leave thinking I would ever be an attorney, much less a judicial officer, the seeds of public service were sown. As a side note, on my first day as an Alameda County Superior Court judge, I arrived at the courthouse at 5:30 a.m., anxious and somewhat uncertain about being up to the task. I sat in my mostly dark courtroom staring at my nameplate on the bench with my name on it, and soon Aurora, the woman who cleaned the building, walked by, and we struck up a conversation in Spanish. That feeling of coming full circle was special, and the ability to engage and serve the many self-represented litigants in a family law department in a county as diverse as Alameda County has been particularly rewarding. I'd like to thank my wife. We met in law school some 21 years ago, and I'm as struck by her today as I was when we first met. She's in every way my better half, my friend, my sounding board, my cheerleader. Her support has been unending and unwavering, and her counsel has been critical. I would not be here without her. I'd like to thank my children. They've made me a better judge. They've made me a better listener, more empathetic, and certainly more humble. They also remind me through their words and actions why I want to serve the people of California and to reaffirm that commitment each and every day. And in closing, I'm particularly excited about joining Division 3, where I'll be rejoining 3 former colleagues, Justice Tucker and Pechu, former of the Alameda County Superior Court, and Justice Fujisaki, my former colleague at the California Supreme Court. All have served with distinction at the First District and in their previous positions, and I very much look forward to working with them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Justice Rodriguez. We look forward to seeing you in the building once we are back in the building. Best wishes, and this concludes our hearing. Thank you all.